everyone, and welcome to this out-of-the-ordinary edition of NHRA Today. I'm Steve Evans. We're here at the all-new Pomona Raceway all by ourselves to bring you an encore showing of the live finals at the Cheap Auto Parts Winternationals that aired yesterday on TNN. The finals had all the drama that you could possibly ask for in the season opening event. Pomona, California. Since the early days of primitive track conditions and facilities in the 1950s, the name Pomona has come to mean only the best in NHRA championship drag racing. Into the 60s, the legend grew, along with the fame of West Coast races like McEwen and Prudhomme. Throughout the history of the Winternationals, Pomona has hosted the great innovators like 1971's debut of the rear-engine dragster by Don Garlits. And thus, as the event attracted ever larger crowds, the facility began to feel the strain, even though legends such as Garlits, Shirley Muldowney, and Raymond Beadle continued to add to the aura of Pomona. Today, however, things have changed as we join NHRA in unveiling the newly renovated and thoroughly modern facility at the LA County Fairplex, still known simply as Pomona. Let's take a look at it from round two down. A real shocker happened. The fans couldn't quite believe what they saw. The new national record holder, Corey McClanahan, then red-lighted away a shot at this Winternationals crown up against Tommy Johnson Jr. But it was Joe Amato who handled Ed McCullough in that second round with identical lapse times, one of the greatest races we have ever seen. Amato then got by Tommy Johnson Jr. to earn his way into the final round. Now his opponent when he gets there will be Kenny Bernstein, who handled Tony Pedregon in round number 2. Bernstein then tangled with Doug Herbert. He took Herbert with a great reaction time. In fact, Bernstein's reaction times have been absolutely unbelievable. Now for the funny car slant on things, here's the senior editor of Car and Driver magazine, Brock Yates.
Well, Steve, John Force is in the finals. That's not big news. But the interesting part of the story is that 2 of the 3 men he beat ran lower ETs than he did. Here's how that happened. In the first round, he beat Whit Bazemore, who actually beat him a 5.11 to a 5.12. But Bazemore crossed the line near the finish line and was disqualified. He then beat Jack Wyatt pretty easily. And then against Dale Poldy, he again theoretically lost the ET race, 5.13 to a 5.15, but excellent driving and an excellent reaction time won for Force. Now he is going to face young Del Worsham, 22 years old. Worsham had a little bit easier time of it. He beat Chuck Etchels, who shut off early in the first round, then got by Wyatt Radke, and finally a good tough race against Al Hoffman. So John Force and Del Worsham in the finals. Force with a 5.15 against a 5.22 lane choice. So John Force versus Del Worsham. Now, more on the Pro Stock story. Let's go to Bob Fry.
Thanks, Brock. The Pro Stock story, in a word, has been Warren Johnson. Johnson, coming out of the #1 qualifying spot, opened up with a very strong win over Vince Curie. Then he took out Bruce Allen in the rear-end Morrison car in that second round. And in the third, he beat Ray Franks. And I might add the surprising Ray Franks to get to the final. Meanwhile, Scott Jeffrey in the Dodge coming out of the other side of the ladder. Very strong opening round against Mike Thomas. Then he came out and took out Mark Powick in the second round. And in the third round, he handled half of this Johnson family when he beat Kurt Johnson in that semifinal. It's Warren Johnson, Scott Jeffrey in the finals. It's pretty much the way here people in Pro Stock wanted to see it.
In Pro Stock, it came down to a battle between 2 former teammates, Scott Jeffreyon and the Professor Warren Johnson. Before they climbed in, I talked to both drivers. You need a great light.
Yeah, but, you know, we've been consistent today in that department, so Warren's going to have to give it his all, and I'm sure he will.
Have you got more power? Can you get more power out of this Dodge to go with your driving?
We sure do. You know, this Mopar Parts Dodge Daytona, this thing really hasn't made a straight run here all weekend, and when it does, it'll run a 15 or 16.
Is there any kind of a curve Scott Jeffreyon could throw at you at the starting line that might upset your timing?
No, Scott, along with myself and the majority of drivers are pretty clean racers. We don't normally try to influence a race on the starting line with some shenanigans or whatever. It'll be a good clean race on the starting line. We'll both stage when we're ready, but there will be no deliberate burn down or anything like that.
Okay, everybody, it's pro time. In the near lane, Warren Johnson. There is the Mopar Dodge of Scott Jeffreyon doing his burnout. Interesting pair here because, of course, these guys know each other very, very well. Scott Jeffreyon having run as the teammate of Warren Johnson in 1991. Great frustration on the part of Jeffreyon, 6-time runner-up last year. But, of course, Warren Johnson was second runner-up 6 times in his career before winning the championship, Bob Fry.
I don't care what Warren said in that interview a few moments ago. This race will be won on the starting line. Warren's car has been a dog off the starting line. Geoffrion has had some magnificent lights, and it's really been moving and making some good 60-foot times. So mark it down. You heard it here first. This race is going to be won right on the starting line. Brock?
Okay, Bob, as they get ready to go, that is the in-car camera inside Scott Geoffrion's Dodge Mopar, a great automobile, enormous ET's capability, Steve Evans, with that automobile.
And the fans are rooting for Scott Geoffrion. He lives in nearby Huntington Beach, California. Originally from New Jersey, as you said, still trying to win his first ever national event up against the toughest customer in all of pro stock competition. Geoffrion holding out on the staging process. Geoffrion won that war. The RPMs will come up. They drop the hammer. It is Warren Johnson away. Scott with a horrible reaction time, the worst of his career possibly. Warren Johnson has won pro stock here at the Chief Auto Parts Winternationals, and he won it in style. He was a #1 qualifier. He handled them all through eliminations. Let's go to Bob Pry at the starting line with the crew chief.
Well, that one was over early, wasn't it?
Something went wrong there. Somebody shorted out. Apparently Scott had a blink problem. There's a little sun shining on his side of the track. Something went wrong. He's been doing a heck of a job all day, and we were really worried. It's a shame for it to end like that, but I guess you got to take him any way you can.
Great job, great job. Brock, let's take a look at that again on the replay.
Okay, Bob, as Steve said earlier, awful problems on the starting line with Scott Geoffrion. He could have timed that reaction time with a calendar as Warren Johnson just moved away to a decisive victory here. Warren Johnson running a 7:24 to a 7:35, 192 miles an hour for the winner as he goes on to win his first championship of the season. Steve?
I tell you, we talked about reaction times. Boy, he was dead late, and you were gone like a rocket, 7:24.
Well, I know the run wasn't that well. It started missing about half track. Apparently we broke something internally on the engine, but we got off the starting line. That's all that mattered. I think Scott may have had some trouble. I don't think he was that late.
Okay, congratulations. What a way to start a season.
Thank you very much, Steve.
All right, let's go back to Brock Yates with the pro stock points.
Okay, Steve, here's the first NHRA professional drag race in 1993. The pro stock standings are, of course, Warren Johnson, Scott Geoffrion in second place. Ray Franks, good run. Kurt Johnson in fourth. Jerry Ekman in this spot.
Here in just a couple of minutes, it'll be time for the funny car final. It's time to make some smoke and pound the ground with the fuel coupe. Del Worsham, almost 23 years of age, up against maybe everybody's favorite funny car driver, mainly due to his personality and his tenacity, John Force. Stay with us. We'll be right back with the funny car finals. Welcome back, everyone, to our encore airing of the Chief Auto Parts Winternationals final rounds. We've shown you pro stock from yesterday, now funny car. John Force and Del Worsham, they both had something to say before they buckled up. Del Worsham doing his own clutch to meet John Force. You may need a very good one in there, my young friend.
Yeah, we're going to give it a new tune-up here and see what it does.
You're going to need more performance.
Yeah, I'd say 600-700s would be a good race.
And you get it.
Oh, I'm sure it's there. It's just a matter of us finding it.
Yeah, we'd hate to really push it. We know it's going to cool down, Steve. The track's going to get better. The air's going to get better. There's more there. But I'd hate to go out and push it and smoke the tires and have him repeat with a 20. So, you know the old deal. We changed and tried to get consistent and about killed myself last year. So, I mean, we tried to get, we tried to push her to the limit. This year we're going to try to play the consistency game. That's what gave us a championship before.
Okay, down on the starting line as we watch Austin Coyle and the crew fire up that big 500-inch dragster engine in John Force's funny car. Going to be an interesting contest here. 22-year-old Del Worsham, a real comer in this business and a great future, but he is facing one of the finest funny cars in history, the third winningest ever in that category, and a man who has run so well here today. As we said earlier, actually two men ran lower ETs, but Force, through excellent driving and very consistent running, right in the 512, 515 category all day long. So, as John said, he's been looking for consistency, and he most certainly has had it all day long. Del Worsham, well, not much else to say about this youngster, 22 years old. His father, Chuck Worsham, one of the great names in drag racing on the West Coast, has really trained this young man so well as these two cars do burnouts. It's going to be a difficult call, although John Force has definite lane choice, 515 to a 522, Bob Price, so he is definitely the favorite at this point.
unless you talk to the Worsham gang, their exact expression to me was, he is dead meat. Remember, I don't write them, I just read them. Both crew chiefs like the way the track looks. It's in great condition. You couldn't ask for a better race condition than we have right here on the starting line. Forrest has been the picture of consistency on the starting line, winning a couple of those races with his reflexes. Worsham's been kind of mired in that 5:20 range. But I just talked to his dad right before they fired the engines up. He says everything is looking good. They figure the car can run a high teen, and they think that if Forrest can run quicker than that, well, then he's just going to have to do that because that's what it's going to take to beat this race car. Two teams that are running as well as anybody in the field here so far this weekend. Forrest looking to regain that championship, and a great way to start will be to win right here today. Brock?
Okay, Bob, just a moment ago you saw the in-car camera on board John Force's 20 cars. So you'll get a look at him as he tears down this Pomona quarter mile. Steve Evans, going to be a good race.
You bet. The body is up on Forrest's car. That is normal. Crew chief Austin Coyle, his assistant Bernie Federley. They make some fuel system adjustments. The body is latched down. These are not for the claustrophobic. Heavy on John Force's mind right now. He made the finals 1 year ago and was taken out by then unknown Jim Epler. He does not want that to happen again. Reaction time edge has to go to John Forrest based at the numbers we've seen all day long, but we said that about Scott Jeffreyon, and Jeffreyon made a horrible mistake at the starting line. You're running with John Forrest. It's a great race. Forrest is sideways. He recovers, and John Forrest wins the Cheap Auto Parts Funny Car title here in Pomona, California. The Winternationals, a great, great victory for John Forrest. Let's go to Bob Fry down on the starting line. I'm sure there's a happy crew.
Boy, I want to tell you, this driver just did a magnificent job all day long. Congratulations.
Well, that's what I was thinking. John sure saved our bacon today. Car's running real strong, but we're not quite used to our new clutch setup, and we got to let him win for us for today.
A magnificent way to start the season as the former Winston champ wins it here today. Let's go take a look at that again on replay. Brock?
Bob Fry, once again, Forrest runs a lower ET than his opponent. Incredible. But an enormous start, a 4:74 reaction time to a 5:20 for young Dale Worsham, turns the tide for John Forrest, and a great top-end burst, 288 miles an hour, 286. So a 5:21 wins it for John Forrest against a 5:19 for the loser. Let's go to Steve.
All right, John Forrest has the helmet and the sock off. John, you weren't about to get beaten in the final 2 years in a row here on your home track.
No, you got to watch that kid. But I tell you something, they beat me ever since Indy, the McDonald's team did, and all the way through Topeka, the breakage, rolling my old hunks upside down, trying to drive. Like I was starting to think maybe I ought to get out of this business or get into top fuel. But today, Wally Parks' birthday. This is a great deal. I brought a new group in, Larry Frazier. I spent more of that Castro money. Jolly Rancher, Rose Wax Shop, Dorman Craftsman.
All right, John, you continue to rave, though. Listen, let's go back to Brock for the funny car points. He hasn't changed a whit.
I thought you said he was low-key. As the Sears Funny Car point standings, the Craftsman Funny Car point standings, John Forrest, Worsham, Hoffman, Dale Pulte, and Cruz Pedregon, the reigning champion at this spot.
One race remains in our encore airing of the Cheap Auto Parts Winternationals final, seen live here yesterday on TNN. And of course, that's Top Fuel. Joe Amato and Kenny Bernstein went in 0.02 of a second apart. I talked to him. Joe, analyze this final round for me with Kenny Bernstein.
Well, you know, he's been driving like a fool all day with real good reaction time, so we almost need a little bit more power on him to just equalize that part. But, you know, we're in the final, and the final, no time to be, you know, God hates a coward, as they say. We're going to give it all our best, and Jeff Rogers and Larry Meyer are going to put some horsepower for Joe Amato, and Joe Amato's going to go out there and try and do his job on the starting line, and we'll see who gets to the win light first.
He wants more from his car, more power. What about you?
Same deal. We need to run a little quicker. I think he'll run quicker, and we're going to have to. It's going to cool off a little bit, make a little more horsepower. Track's going to be a little better. He's going to run at 85 or an 86. We're going to have to move up a little bit. We haven't run that quick yet.
All right, you want an even drag race? That is Dale Armstrong firing up Kenny Bernstein, Top Fuel dragster. He has lane choice at a 488.2 versus a 488.5 for this man, Joe Amato, in the Valvoline Top Fuel dragster. So for all intents and purposes, these are dead even race cars. And of course, the drivers, who can say more about these two great champions in their own right? Of course, Kenny Bernstein, 300 miles an hour last year, 301. And Joe Amato, and he came here fighting for the championship in a three-way battle with Corey McLenithan. They came out of it with, of course, Amato winning it. So it could be revenge time, Bob Fry, for Kenny Bernstein as far as the championship point battle is concerned here.
Not only for the points battle, Brock, but as far as last year was concerned, Joe Amato owned Kenny Bernstein. Bernstein only beat Amato one time last year. Interestingly, as everybody talks about lane choice, it won't make any difference right here. There's nothing to choose between the two lanes. And I talked to both crew chiefs. I said, Armstrong, what's it going to take to win? He said an 84. I talked to Jeff Rogers in the Valvoline car for Joe Amato. I said, what's it going to take to win? He said an 83. Brock?
Well, we know it's going to be in the 80s somewhere, according to those guys, as we get ready to go. The sun beginning to set here at Pomona. Steve Evans, a great race on tap.
Absolutely. I wouldn't wager a sou either way. You're running with Kenny Bernstein. We don't see Amato. Bernstein, engine goes away. Bernstein sideways in the middle of the racetrack. Kenny Bernstein in big, big trouble. Bernstein is over the rail, on fire. We are going to rush to the scene. Brock Yates, pick it up.
All right, a tremendous crash. As you saw, the engine broke loose from Kenny Bernstein's automobile. The NHRA Safety Safari on the scene almost instantaneously, trying to get to Kenny. He's still in the race car, as the paramedics on this crew are the best in the business. Having a look at Kenny. Hopefully he is all right. Let's have another look at this as Joe Amato goes on to a victory, which of course now becomes an anticlimax to this drag race. But Amato off with a little bit better reaction time, but Bernstein in it all the way as they are head-to-head, beginning to fall back. And there you see the engine fire that caused Kenny Bernstein's crash. An explosion there at about 3/4 track as they enter the lights at over 280 miles an hour. Bernstein sideways, now fighting for control. Of course, these cars are almost impossible to control with such long wheelbases. Tires gone, hits the guardrail very hard. A big impact there as Kenny Bernstein had crossed the racetrack. We see an instant gout of fire. Of course, that is the fuel tank being thrown loose from the race car. So very difficult to tell exactly what's happening here as we go down to have a look at what's going on. There's Dale Armstrong, very concerned, apparently talking to Kenny, so he appears to be conscious. But at this point, difficult to tell his condition.
Yeah, he said he's okay.
I'm down there with Dale Armstrong. Dale just had a chance to lean into the cockpit. Is he conscious?
I just asked him if he's hurting anywhere, and he says, no, I'm okay.
And this car performed just as a top fuel dragster should. They are designed to break apart, as you see this car. The engine to leave the chassis, to get away from the driver with all of its weight. Kenny Bernstein over the rail. We have not seen a car over the rail in recent memory. I can't remember the last time. But the good news from his own crew chief, Dale Armstrong, is that he's talking to him. He says he doesn't hurt anywhere. And here yet is another look at a vicious crash.
Well, Steve, as you notice there, the roll cage, which protects Kenny Bernstein, as we watched it one more time, this horrendous slide all the way across the racetrack to impact on a gateway here. Perhaps an unfortunate hit. He might have caromed off had he not gotten into that gate, but he is out of the car and all right, and the integrity of that race car saved his life.
Kenny Bernstein is indeed out of the car. They were going to cut the roll cage off. Kenny said, I'm okay, let me out of this thing. Kenny Bernstein is a very fit man. He works out at the gym, he runs. Kenny, you're indeed okay?
I'm okay, Steve. Tell everybody I'm fine. I'm bell rung a little bit. Kind of feel like a NASCAR Cup car driver here at Atlanta, but not too bad.
And I'll bet you that Kenny will be in Daytona tomorrow for the Daytona 500 to see his driver start 20th on the grid in his NASCAR car. Nothing will stop him from doing that. We wish we could talk to Joe Amato. We can't. We're all out of time. Thank you all for joining us here live on TNN. He's okay.